Good morning, everyone. Good evening. This is Rakesh here. Just give me a second. Just give me a minute. Just checking with the rest of the guys if they're joining, because we have another 3-4 guys to join. So I'm just checking with them. Yeah, Lakshmi, go ahead, please.
Hi sir, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Lakshmi.
Hello. Sir, actually you were saying about creating a local repository in that one of the guy asked this doubt like in Microsoft SQL Server the way of creating is different, and if it is in Oracle it is different. You are saying that, no sir?
Yes.
So I have a doubt regarding that. What it is, sir? If you could tell me again, because yesterday while I was just referring again the video what you have sent me, the recorded session, I was just going through aloud, so I had this doubt like this. Just if you could explain.
All right. So if it is a SQL server, the one that we have on our system here, so we connect with the username and password, and we connect to the database, and for that database we will create multiple users. So let us say if I have this database, baby_lr1, And for this, I can go and create multiple users here, right? So it will be database name dot username.
Okay.
Okay, this is for the SQL Server. But if it is Oracle system, it will be, you will be logging in with a schema name.
On the,
And password.
I'm not able.
Sorry?
I'm not able to see. Are you explaining anything? Okay, okay. Now I'm able to see. Okay.
One second. Okay, if it is on the Oracle system, it is like schema name and password. You log in with username and password. And once you log into the system, you will see the main database, and if you expand the database, under that you will see the schema. And only under the schema you will be seeing the tables. So on the database side, it will be schema name dot user database name. So this will be the difference. So that is the main difference, Lakshmi. So on the database side, it will be the uh, if it is on SQL Server, it will be database dot username, and if it is on the Oracle system, it will be username dot database name. But anyways, there is no need for us to worry about it because the database guy will be taking care of all these things. If as a BODS administrator, we just need to raise a request for.
Okay, sir.
Okay, right. Okay, right. So we will continue with today's topic. Staff, can you please confirm if I need to wait for someone to come in, or what is that? Alright, so let's look at our topic. If you have any questions on yesterday's topic, please let me know. I'll clarify them, and we'll continue with today's topic. If not, we'll continue with today's topic. So yesterday we were discussing about setting up the system and walkthrough on the data services local repository. So this is what we have looked at in yesterday's session. If you have any questions, please let me know. If not, we'll continue with the extraction sessions. So any questions on this? Yeah, please stop me if you have any questions. I'll be glad to answer them. So the next one that we saw yesterday is a walkthrough on the designer. So the navigation for data services designer is start all programs data services 4.2 and data services designer. So once you click on this navigation, it's start all programs data services 4.2 and data services designer. So once you click on that data services designer, you'll get this logon pad. You need to key the username and password. So this is the repository that we created yesterday. Alright. So we'll talk about the different areas in the local object library in more detail now because we spoke about the project area. Now we'll talk about the local object library in detail. So if this local object library is divided into 8 tabs. So first one is the project. So project is nothing but a folder where all your relevant jobs will be there. So when I say all my relevant jobs, it is like if I'm doing uh, extraction jobs, or if I'm doing validation jobs, or if I'm creating a lookup environment, all my lookup jobs, or if it is a small project, all my jobs relevant to that project will be present in my folder, project folder. So to create a project, you can go and create a project from here on the quick start page. You'll get this window. Or you can go and click on open project and give some name here and just click on open. It will say this project does not exist. You want us to create it. If you click on yes, it will be created. If not, you can go to the menu bar, project, new, and you can click on project here. Okay, so this is one more navigation and you can click on this new button, Control N for project, or open button. Like these two options that you have here, they're also available in your menu bar. So these are the different ways in which you can create a project. The easiest one is go and click on this one and give the project name as PROJ underscore BODS training. So on a project front, right, so it will be like this. Project starts with PROJ or PRJ underscore the client name ABC underscore data migration. So if it is a small project and all your jobs will fall under this one project folder, it is the project name will be project underscore ABC underscore data migration. So if you are following a specific methodology like ABIO or BPDM, so you'll mention the project name and the methodology, and then we will come up with the client name. I'm just giving the client name as ABC. And if you have streams, so if you are working on a bigger project and if you have streams in the project, then we will give it as like marketing or finance or SD underscore data migration. So for that purpose, just as we are looking at the training here, I'm just giving project name as proj underscore BODS training. So the moment I create a project folder, it is automatically displayed in the project area. So let me go and create one more project folder here. Proj underscore RT jobs, real-time jobs that we'll be looking at once our batch jobs are done. So now when I created another project folder, this project folder is displayed in project area, which means project area can handle only the current project folder, and local object library can handle more than one. So all your projects will be present here, and the one that you work on, you just need to double click on that and that will go into the project area and you can start working on that one. So this is the difference between the projects tab in your local object library and project area in your designer. So you need to just make sure that whatever the project that you're working on is present in the project area. Right, the next one is the jobs. So there are two types of jobs, batch jobs and real-time jobs. Real-time jobs, we'll look at them a little later. So next one is the batch job. So what is a job? The executing part of data services is called a job, which does some activity like extraction transformation, and loading. So it connects to your source using data stores. It extracts the data and it transforms the data and loads the data into your target system. So job handles a group of data flows where the actual business happens. So how to create a job? So to create a job, you can go to project, new, and go and select the batch job here, or you can go to your local object library, go to the jobs tab, select the batch job, do a context menu, and click on new to create a batch job, or right click on this area, white area here, go for new and select a batch job, or the easiest way, select the project in which you want to create a batch job, right click, and you can select new batch job. So the job name starts with job underscore test, right? So I'm just giving the job name as test here because we are going to talk about different components or different objects of data services. So I just gave the name as test or demo. So remember, every job name that you create in data services will start with job underscore and the methodology underscore. So if it is on a project front, right, you can rename this one. So it will be job underscore the methodology that you are following, and so it will be like this: job underscore AIO underscore material master ext. Or you can follow the customer name as well, job underscore AIO underscore ABC material master ext. Okay, so just mention the methodology, the customer name, and the module that you're working on or the object that you're working on, and the nature of the job. Is that doing an extraction or lookup creation, so that it will be pretty much easy for somebody who takes over the job from you. It will be easy for them to understand it properly, and it will not be that tough for you to give a knowledge transition. So job underscore demo underscore BODS is the job name. Then next one is the workflow. So you can create a workflow from here. And if you notice, the start page is now converted to a designer window. So this is a start page, but the moment you click on your job, it gets converted to a designer window. So next one is to create a workflow. So again, you can do a project, new, you can go for a workflow. So everything is available in the project new here. So just keep that in mind. Then the next one is go to the workflow tab, right click and go for a new workflow. And workflow starts with WF underscore BODS underscore demo, right? Or you can select it from the right hand side tool palette and click back in the window and call it as demo underscore BODS underscore 1. Alright, so all your workflows will be displayed here. You can just call them, and then once you call them into the designer, you have to define the order in which they need to be executed. So you can make one workflow as the first workflow and the second one as the second. Okay, so these are your workflows. So workflow is nothing but a folder where you can keep relevant data flows together. Okay, so you click on this workflow and you will see the workflow name here, and in this one you can create the data flows. So data flow, you click on this data flow on the right hand side tool palette and click back on the window. That's the easiest one. Or you can go for project, new, and you can go for a data flow, or go to the data flow tab, right click and go for a new data flow, or right click here, go for new and select a data flow. So these are the three options in which you can create a data flow. And data flow name starts with DF. So I'm giving the data flow demo 1, then create one more data flow. Right, I created two data flows, data flow demo 1, data flow demo 2. Right, I connected the order in which they needs to be executed. Just go back, go to the next one, create a few more data flows. So this is just a template job that we are creating here. No tables, nothing. So df underscore demo 4. So you just need to link them the order. So if you don't link them like this, if you don't define the order in which they needs to be executed, both the data flows get triggered at the same time. So if they have small tables, that is fine. If they have huge data volumes or more number of tables in that, then that could cause a performance issue. Alright, so if you expand this on the designer window, you can see this, your workflow 1 and workflow 2 and the data flows that are present in them. Right, so this is how you go and create the job. And once you open the data flows, within the data flow, you can go and create your source table, target table, and you can go and create your transformations or use the transformations that are present in your system. So this is how we create the job and the basic syntax of it. Right. So now let us go and look at how do we add different types of sources. So we will look at different scenarios here. So the first one that we will look at is, so though they are like very basic, simple and fundamental, I'll just like to cover them so that it will be useful for us when we do some complex scenarios in the future. So first one is the flat file to flat file extraction. So you must have a question like why we need this scenario. So like on data services front on the project, so you will have some inbound and outbound directories where you will have your source files present in your inbound, and you need to write them into your outbound directory, your target directory. So in these scenarios, what you will do is you will use data services, you connect to your inbound directory, read the data from them, and write it into your inbound directory. So you might have a question like, can copy from there and paste it in the other target system. So yeah, you can do that. But here, one second. Hey Zafar, go ahead.
Hi Rakesh, I do have a question about the folders you were creating for the bad job and the data flow, and so if we miss any of them, so we cannot do the sequence. Like, is it necessary these parts, or it's just for organizing purpose, like a workflow?
Yeah, it's just for the organizing purpose. You can directly go with a job, and under the job you can go for a data flow. This is the least level. So there is a hierarchy which I'm going to explain in a bit. So first you need to have a job, then you have condition scripts, and then under the conditions and scripts you have workflows and then data flows. But job is on the highest level and data flow is on the least level. I'll show you the hierarchy. So,
but but this one just for the organizing purpose, right? It's
exactly.
Not necessary. Oh, okay, thank you.
All right. All right, so we must have a question like why I need a BUDS job and a software to move one flat file to another flat file. So it might sound pretty simple, like from one folder to another, but there are so many complexities when you want to apply the business rules, or you want to read from one location and write it in another location where only BUDS has access to, and the next one is validation on the data. You can apply different validation rules. As we proceed through data services, we will see how do we do a validation on the data, then how do we do scoping on the data, how we perform metadata conversion. So all these things we can apply on this one and load it into the target. So let us say it is a file that gets generated in the inbound and which has to be loaded into the target. There are different scenarios, like I need to read the data, 1 week's data, consolidate that and load it into a target folder in an outbound file. Yes, that can be a flat file to flat file extraction job. So one more thing is I need to convert the metadata and write it into the outbound. So multiple scenarios we will get through in our real-time job. So no scenario that we will be looking here is a useless one. It is pretty useful. So that is what I'm trying to express here. So the second one that we'll be looking at is fat file to a database extraction. Then third one is a database to database extraction. Fourth one is database to a flat file extraction. Then fifth one is SAP ECC to a database and a flat file extraction. Okay, so different types of flat files. When I say flat file, it is .txt, .csv, .xls, and all these things that we'll be looking at. So, and different types of delimiters too. So we will look at CSV, comma separated files, tab separated files, pipeline separated files, right? We'll look at different types of delimiters as well. So these are the scenarios that we'll be looking at. So first one is flat file to flat file extraction. So what are the steps that I need to do when I'm talking about a flat file to flat file extraction? So first thing is I need to connect my source and target flat files to BODS or define connection to the source and target flat files. Right, point number one. And point number two, I create a job and this is the order in which I create this. Create a job, create a data flow, and drag in your source and target files. Third step, link them or join them and check syntax. Fourth step is to execute the job. So these are the 4 steps. Very simple thing. You just need to create a connection to your source flat file. Then you need to create a connection to your target flat file, which is something new that we'll be creating. So target flat files always do not exist. We will create them. Right. So next one is to create a job and then a data flow. And once you open the data flow, pull in your source connection and the target connections from BODS and then connect them and execute the job. So let us do this one now. So I have some source flat file folder on my desktop which I created for the training purpose. So we'll be reading the data from this one. So there are different notepads. So I'll read something like this, FF customer. So this is a customer file which is a pipe delimited structure. Okay, pipeline delimited file is there. So we'll read this from data services. So go to the formats tab of your data services, right? And then you see the flat files here. You select the flat files, right click and go for new. To add a .txt or .csv file, you can go with this approach, or you right click here, go for a new and select a flat file. Either you select the flat file, right click and go for new, or right click here, go for new and select the flat file, or the other way is go to the project, new, and select it from flat files. So the easiest way is to select your flat files, right click and go for new. Right, so here the type of the file is delimited, pipeline delimited, you select that one. Or you also have different types of files like fixed width files, SAP, transport files, unstructured files, and unstructured binary. So this is our fixed width file. And next one is the format name. So always define a flat file with the name ff underscore, then the name of the file, and it should end with a description which it says it is a source or a target file. So if you are doing some validation report and you want to generate a flat file on that one, so it can be VAL for valid files and INVL for invalid files. So these once as you proceed, there will be so many files that you'll be creating. So it will be pretty easy for you to understand which is your source file and which is your target file if you follow this naming convention. Right. So next one is an adaptable schema option. So what is an adaptable schema? Just in case if you are looking at some Excel source, alright, so the data is here, and just in case if this data gets posted somewhere from here, right, so the system will not understand this, or not exactly somewhere from here, so we can put it somewhere from here. So if there is a structure problem, so one row is getting posted into an additional column, so this will be identified as a new column, but there will be no header for that, and this is a data structure problem. So if you have data like this and you want to read this data initially, right, to make sure that you want to work on that one, so you can go with selecting this adaptable schema as yes. So if you keep it as no, and if there are any data structure problems, data services will not accept the file. So this is a one cross check that data services do on the flat file metadata to make sure that all the columns are correct. And if it is a custom transfer program, you can keep it as yes and mention the path from where your custom transfer program is accepted. So this is a process where you go and select that, but in our case this is a flat file, so we keep this as no, and skip the error handling, you keep it as no because you want to capture the errors. So just in case when you are processing this file or when you're reading the file, if you are getting some errors, you won't have it. So the next one is data files. So data file location is on the local machine or on the job server. So when I say this, there is only two places where you can have this file or your inbound files located. One is on the server where your BODS is installed, right, or on the job server, which is your common share folders, which is common for your job server system and your data services designer. So it can be either on your server if you are using a single machine where your entire data services is installed, right? It can be a folder on that server, or if you are using a clustered environment, a separate machine for job server, separate machine for designer, then it can be a common share folder where your files are located. So if it is on some FTP common share folder, so you can define it as a job server here, right? You can select the drop down and select the job server as a location, but on our system the files are present in my local machine, so I select this as local, and then next don't click on this drop down here. You'll see the parameters and global variables. We'll talk about them a little later. So to select the path, so click on the folder icon here, right? You will see your folders on your desktop. So this is my folder where my file is present. Click on OK, and again click on the file name, select the file ff_customers, right? Click on open. Then the moment you select the file, it says that it wants to override the existing schema. So what is the existing schema? Existing schema is field 1 varchar 100, that is only the metadata that is present now. So it wants to override it. Yes, we selected yes, but it is not the correct structure. So now let us go to the delimiters and give the pipeline delimiter here. So just you need to select that and type it on the desktop. So you have the pipe symbol on the /, or you can, if it is a tab delimited, semicolon, comma, space, so you can go with them. So it's a pipeline delimited file. You can see the data here. So I select the pipeline here and just click on anywhere in this window. It will ask you again to override the schema. Click on yes, and now you see it in a proper structure, but you also see the headers along with the data. So you need to skip the headers so that you get the data displayed rightly. So you can do that one here, skip the row headers. Yes. So for always for your input file, a source flat file, you'll skip the row headers, and when you're doing a target flat file, you will be writing the headers. So again, override the schema, click on yes, and now you see the column names. Just make sure you open your source flat file, check all the columns that are present, and just go through here. If the data looks good, then click on save and close, and your flat file is added to data services. So technically on the background, what happened is data services established the link between your source flat file and data services. So it is just you added the metadata. So if you want to look at the metadata, you can right click in, click on edit this one, and this is your metadata where you can go and change this one. So you can convert these data types, right? And also you can change the name of the column. So as I told you, data services allows you to do a lot of conversions on the metadata right when you add the file. Right from the time when you add the file to data services, your source file, you can go and change their column names, their data types, and their length. And also you can specify the context type for them. So if it is, what kind of a context is that? So it can be an address, or it can be a country, it can be a date, a delivery point, a status, emails. So emails, every email have a pattern, right? Username at domainname.com or .in or .org. So you can give a particular pattern for that. So if you can define a pattern here, right? So for address, let us say for address, the address is the pattern, and for postal code, we'll have the postal codes as the pattern. So you can define the pattern of the data. So before the data gets into the system, you can say that, okay, this is how the data should be, right? So just click on save and close, and we have a question here. Hey Zafar, go ahead please.
Yeah, Rakesh, I have two questions. Actually, when I give interview, they were asking me, like, for example, if the flat file or a text file is in a zip file, can you use it BODS to stack the data? And the second thing is, in the text file, if you have a special character, like in that text file, if you go to row number 9, you have stoppy, right? So
Yeah.
how you can clean this one special character? Like in a Bond app, there is a stoppy. So is there a possibility that when you're moving the data from source to target, you can adjust these special characters, and you can use a zip file? Usually sometime your client give you zip file, it contains several text file, so you can use it.
So one thing is, even I haven't tried extracting the data from a zip file directly, and I guess definitely no, because it always directly points to your source inbound directory. So the customer might give us a normal zip folder which contains data, but it needs to be extracted and placed in your inbound directory first, so that we can
Okay.
read the data from there. That is
Great.
answer to your
Okay.
first question. And the second question is, if you have these kind of special characters on the data, you can apply the decodes on your data services. You can apply the business rules and do a conversion on the data. So you can just replace them with some null values, so that when you load it into the target data, this special characters will be replaced with nulls.
Okay, so it can be done through the data quality?
Data services. No, not even data quality. Even with the simple query transformation, you can do that one.
Oh,
You can do a conversion on that.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll look into those kind of scenarios as well. A good question, Jaffer. Is just to create yeah. So one more scenario, yes, Sandeep. Pretty much close. Yes. So when we are especially, creating a flat file, Zafar, let me put you on mute. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand. Right. So Sandeep says that this type of extractions, flat file to flat file, is used to create files for loading into LSMW. Yeah, so it can be a database to a flat file. So if you want to load the data into an SAP system using legacy system migration workbench LSMW, you can use this scenario. So if your source is a flat file and you need to convert that into an SAP structure, you can use BODs to convert that into an SAP structure, as you have an option to change the metadata here. You can convert that and load that into a flat file, and from there LSMW can pick it. Or the second option that we have here is you can extract the data from a database or another combination of tables from SAP and write it into a flat file where LSMW can pick it. So yeah, that's a close scenario, Sandeep. We can go with that one as well. Alright, so we added a flat file, source flat file, and if you want to edit that, you can go and select that and edit. Right, data services, as I told you, does not save even a single record of data, but it always gives us a provision to view the data from data services. Either you can view it from here, the sample data, or you can select the file, right click and click on view data. So this will give you this will show you the data in the tabular structure. One second, Lakshmi, I'll get back to you. Right, so you can also view the data from data services. Yeah, Lakshmi, go ahead with your question. Lakshmi, yeah.
Sir, just now you were saying about LSMW. Could you explain me what is that?
So LSMW is an SAP program which reads the data from a flat file and writes it into the SAP system. Legacy System Migration Workbench, LSMW. Okay, that is not BODS, that is a separate ABAP code that we go and try to read the data from flat file and write it into the SAP system.
Okay, for that it is required to write any coding.
So that is not BODS, Lakshmi. So that is on an SAP system. Generally, ABAPers will go and do that activity.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, right. Alright, so next step is to add our target flat file. The same approach, you can go for new and select underscore cust ff underscore cust underscore trgt. I'm mentioning the path where we need to save this one, and next I'm just saving it in the source flat file folder only, and you need to create a file here. So there's no need for you to click on create and open, so you can just give the file name ff underscore cust underscore demo underscore trgt, right, .txt. So you give the file name and the extension, the file type here. So this is a comma separated file. You can go and create that to be a tab separated. Then so new line or Windows new line, it is for the Windows this thing, and Unix new line when you're working on a Unix operating system. So you just go with the new line, and row within a text contains characters or row delimiters. So let us say if you are using a special character like tab or a comma as a delimiter. So sometimes if you have a data, so data can also have the delimiter, which doesn't mean that it should be split into different columns. So you can define that kind of situations here, right? And so you can define that text within these double quotes or single quotes. I'm just defining it as none. So escape characters, null indicators, ignore row marks with this one, the date pattern, the time pattern, date and time pattern. Then this is my target file, so I want to write the row headers, so I make it as yes. So I just take you on an overview on this different options here. There are a number of options, so please go through them, and if you have any questions on that, please reach out to me. I'll be glad to clarify on them. Right, so write the row headers as yes and click on save. So when you look at the target file, it is not having any fixed structure, right? It is not having any metadata. It is just a file where it will go and pick it from the source structure. The metadata will be picked from the source structure. So now create a job. I call this as job underscore ff underscore ff underscore ext. So job flat file extraction, flat file to flat file extraction. The next one is data flow. So this is the least node that we can have under the job tf underscore ff underscore ff underscore ext. So duplicate data flow names are not allowed, and special characters in naming the data flows or jobs are not allowed in data services. Open this one, go to the formats tab in your local object library, select your source flat file. So you will also see the usage, how many times a particular file is used in data services. So select the source flat file, drag and drop it into your data flow, and it will ask you either want to make it as a source or as a target. So since this is my source, I'll select this to be my source, and then select the target, drag and drop down and into your data flow, and you make it as your target. Now you have your source file, your target file, and source, if you look at that, the reason why I'm calling it as source is it has a connector on the right hand side, and when you make a file as a target, it will have the connector on the left hand side. So this is my sender and this is my receiver. So the moment you put your mouse pointer there near that connector, so you will see that mouse pointer turning to a check, and you can draw a line between the source and the target flat files, which means we are establishing a connection between your source and target flat files. Now this job is done. It's as simple as such. Just click on validate all to see if there are any errors. So there are two options here to validate your syntax of the job. If there are any errors, it will capture that one. So one is validate current and the second one is validate all. So what is the reason why they gave us two different things? So if I am within an object, right, my validate all option is grayed out, right? I can validate the current one. So when I call an object, so everything in data business objects is called as an object. So it can be my job, it can be my data flow, it can be my file. So anything is called as an object. Even my transformations, my data stores, each and everything in data services is called as an object. And when I am within my object, I can do a validate current. And if there are more than one objects in a window, you will see validate all activated. So when you click on this validate all, it will go and validate all the objects that are displayed in that one. So now your job is created, first job. Now how to execute the job? So I created a job to extract the data from flat file and load it into another flat file. So it is just a one-to-one load. I did not even change the metadata. Just we saw how to change that, especially when we are adding our source flat file area where we can go and change the metadata. Now to execute the job, you select the job and either you press on this button on the window menu bar or press F8, or easiest way is to select your job to a context menu and click on execute. Right, it will show all the unsaved jobs, workflows and data flows. So you just click on yes. And once it is done, it will take you to the execution properties window. So there are different options in this. We'll get into them one by one. So execution properties window, all you need to know as of now is you're pointing to the right job server here, right? And just click on OK. So now your designer window is converted to a monitor window and it is executing the job. So we see some numbers here and some descriptions which we need to understand as a developer. So I'll walk you through them in detail so that we will understand how a job gets executed. So if you look at this one, so you can see that in the monitor tab as well. So if you look at this one, this is divided into 3 areas. One is your trace, second one is your monitor, and third one is your error. So this is my trace. So this trace tells or talks about different steps of your job execution. So this job, it started with a PID 23108 and PID. These are the IDs that are assigned by the system for this particular job. And the type of the object that is getting executed is first it is job, then it went to a data flow, and then it ended with a job. And the timestamp when the job is executed. So job started at 7:11 a.m. So 7 minutes, 7 hours, 3 minutes, 11 seconds a.m. And the job ended at 7 hours, 3 minutes, 16 seconds. So the total job time that is taken by the job is 5 seconds to extract somewhere around 91 records. And if you look at these messages, so let us go in detail to those messages and understand the process and how they get executed. So first one, it says reading the job. The job is now converted into an ID from the repository of the server of the version. So it will check the job server, the server version and everything, and it converts this job into a particular code, right? So that is not that mandatory to know. Next one is current job is present in your this folder. The current job directory of the job, it is present on your system. So that is again a default path. Then starting jobs on the job server, BO41 and on the job server port. So if you look at your job server, so this is on the port 3500. So this is a job server icon on your designer window. Sorry if I forgot to mention about this. And the moment I put my mouse pointer on this one, on the left bottom corner, you see the job server name and the port number. So this is what we selected at the once we are executing the job, and this is the confirmation. So it is going to execute the job on this server, and this will be the communication port which it is using, which means the job server on which the job is getting executed. So job of run ID is initiated by the system, then it is processing the job. So if you look at this one, it is not taking the job directly and it is executing it. It is trying to process it, it is trying to optimize it, and then it started the job. So these are the 3 steps that you need to identify here. So once you execute a job, it will not go and execute in the backend. So this is second level knowledge. So once you start working on the tool, once you create all these things, so you need to think on the next second level. So so that it will make you look at this thing in a big picture and understand what happens in the backend architecture and all these things. So let me put something in your mind right now so that will be pretty much useful. So any BODS job, once you execute, this is my source table and this is my target table and this is my data services. So you extract the data and load it into the target. So it can be a flat file to flat file. So as we always say, data services will not have even a single record of data. So what will happen? The moment I pull the data from external system to data services, it will go and upload the entire data into my system cache, which is my temp space on the system where data services is installed. All the calculations are done there, and it is connected to your target data store and from there it is pushed onto your target system. So data services works on top of your system cache. So the moment you pull in any information, so it has to be utilized, your system cache has to be utilized. And so if you are extracting 100 records, the 100 records from the source table will get pushed into your system cache, and then if you are applying some business rules or calculations, so everything gets pushed there and then it goes into your target table. So let me put it even more clear. So we have something called as a data flow. So data flow has your source table and your target table. So when I execute the job, the source table information is pushed into the system cache, and within your source and target table you have some transformation, so that conversion is done on the data, and then it goes to the target table, which is connected to a target database through a data store. So the data gets flushed out of your system cache into the target system, right? So this is the basic rule that happens for each and every data flow. So the more the RAM you have on your system, the faster your data services will work. So that is a direct formula. So if you are working on projects and somebody asks you like your data services, this job is running slow, the first thing that you need to check is like how much RAM they have on their system. So if they have very less RAM, then probably they need to increase the RAM on their system and cross-check rerunning the job. Or if they have good RAM on their system, the next step that we need to do is on the performance tuning activity, which we'll be looking in a bit. Right, so this is how it works in the backend. So if your temp space is more, then your job execution time will go down. So that is the reason why it is processing the job, then it is optimizing the job. So it is collecting some statistics. What is this flat file? From where it is coming? What is my inbound directory? So it will create all the stats in some file on your desktop. So if you look at this, so you have something called collect statistics for optimization, collect statistics for monitoring, use collected statistics, right? These stats are a part of your job execution. These stats are collected so that when you run this job for the next time, right, so it will not get all these stats from this job, but it will go and refer to the file that is available on your system, and it will run from there. So it will save this time in collecting the statistics. So it will not waste the time by going to a job. So if it is one job and one data flow that we are looking at right now, that's fine. But let us say if I have a job with 40 data flows, right, that's quite a possibility that we can build that complex jobs. And when it goes to that level, so going to each and every data flow and taking the statistics is a bit difficult one. And let us also say that this job is a daily scheduled job. So every time it gets executed, the system cannot go and pick, system can go and pick the statistics, but that is a time-consuming activity. So for the first time when you're running a job in data services, that will execute for quite a long time. So this 5 seconds is pretty much huge for 91 records, right? So this is pretty much huge for 91 records. So it should even run in shorter span than that. But the reason why it took a longer period is because you're running it for the first time in this repository, and it started collecting the stats for it. So next time you run the same job, it will run in a better time frame. So that is one point. And next, once it is done with the job, it starts with the data flow, because that is the next one in the hierarchy here. So it will go and process to execute the data flow, and it starts the data flow. And next step is it will check the cache availability. As I told you, it will go and check how much RAM that is there in my system and how much it is required for this job. Right, it is checking the system cache. So you can see that here, cache statistics determined that the data flow uses 0 cache because it is just 91 records, and our total cache on the system is this much, these many bytes of system temp space is available, and data flow is using in-memory cache type. So we'll talk about this in-memory type a bit later. So next one is data flow is using the in-memory. So whatever the memory that is there, so data flow is trying to use that one. And then next one is data flow completed successfully, and process to execute the data flow is completed and the job is successfully done. So final step, it ends with job where it starts with job. So in between, if you have anything, it will try to start that, complete that. So if you look at this data flow, it started the data flow, then it completed the data flow, it started the job, right, and it completed the job. Right, so this is our trace. This talks about each and every step of your job, and in case your job fails, it will show the job failed in so and so data flow in the trace. Right, so we'll also face some errors. As we face them, we'll talk about them. So this is the trace of your job. So this talks in detail about your job execution. So at what time, what step is happening, and at what time the job is completed. The next tab that you see here is monitor tab. So this monitor tab has the source files, the target files, and the state in which this is present. This starts from read, proceed, and proceed, read, and stop. So initially when we run the job, it will be in proceed. So we will see when we are extracting the data from SAP tables, we'll be extracting some 25 to 30,000 records. So in that case, we will have some time to see that one. So we'll look at that when we are running this job from SAP. So it will be in the ready stage, then it goes to proceed, and then it goes to stop. So that is the state, and this is the number of records that are extracted from source. And if you technically look at this, 0.002 seconds are used to extract the data from the flat file, and 0.016 seconds are required to write the data from the flat file. But taking the statistics and all those things, your job execution, absolute time taken for the job execution is 3 seconds, right? 3.035 seconds. So this is the total duration of your job, 3.035 seconds to write 91 records, read and write 91 records. So that is pretty fast, right? So if you have any errors, this will be activated, and you can see the error here. But as of now, there are no errors, so it is grayed out. So this is your trace, this is your monitor, and if you get any errors, this is your error button. So this is how in detail we will understand the job execution. Right, so first one done. Any questions on this so that I can proceed with the next one, which is flat file to database extraction? Yes, Zafar, go ahead.
Hi, Rakesh. For example, right now we have source and target the text file. For example, if you are targeting the SAP HANA or Oracle database, so which cache this will use? It's specifically for the BODS cache or is different? Like, for example, if the target is different, so it can share the cache from there as well, or it's just for the BODS box server?
It's only on the BODS. So it will not save the cache on the target system. So we will be looking at loading the data into a database. We'll be looking at loading the data into HANA system. So the main cache that it will be utilizing is on the system where data services is installed. So is the reason I was talking about the RAM to be more on your system.
Okay, so that means the BODS server should be strong because
yeah, the BODS server should be strong, pretty strong.
Okay, okay, thank you.
So initial days of the project, we'll do an activity called server sizing activity. So this depends on the number of records that we pick from the source, and the data types that are present on your source. I'll just put you on mute. All right. So the number of records that are present on your source is the first one, and the second one is the volume of data is that is present on your entire source systems, the number of source systems that you have, and the complexity in the data, the landscape, your customer landscape, where your source data is present, and the data types where your data is present. So based on all these different fractions or different factors that we collect from the customer's landscape, we will go and we'll go and perform an activity called server sizing activity, where we define how much RAM is required, uh, uh, how much time is required to sorry, I just got lost. Sandeep, you have a question, I'll get back to it. So we will see how much RAM is required, what is the hardware size and all these things. So as an admin and architect, we'll go into those calls and we will talk to the customer and define them how much space, RAM, hardware configuration that it is required. So we'll not do something by our own knowledge there. So we'll refer to the SAP server sizing templates that provided by SAP. So it's based on different factors. We give them as an input for that template, and it gives us an output saying that, okay, this is the server size that you need to use. So Sandeep has a very good question, how to trace a scheduled job. So if your job is running on a daily basis, so how do you go and check that? You cannot check that from your data services designer. You can check that from your data services management console. And management console, you have job execution history, where you can go and select a job from your bad job and see the execution of the job from last 60 days or 30 days or 20 days based on your requirement, and from there you can see the trace. I'll get back to it once we are looking on the management console. So that's an interview question. That's a very good question to be posted on the interview panel, because they are trying to really look at like if this person has really worked on the data services, or it's just some basic knowledge that he came up with and starting to work on that. So yeah, we will go into all those levels. So I assure that the questions that you are asking today, please remember them. One day we will be looking and talking about them. And just in case if you're not, then please raise out your questions and ask me so that I will show it on the system to you. All right, so that's about extracting the data from flat file to a flat file. The second one that we'll be looking at is a flat file to database. So what are the steps in this one? So first step that I need to do is add my flat file. So let us say I'm just using my existing flat file. Add source flat file. So I'll not add, I'll use my existing one. The second step is what is your target database, right? And how do you connect to the target database? So a target database can be an Oracle system and a HANA database, right? Or your SQL Server Management Studio. Anything can be a target database. It can be a DB2 system. So how do you define a connection between your data services and your target database, or how will you make your data services communicate to the external system, right? So we will look into that. So this we will see with the concept called as data stores. So one quick question to my staff. So Naveen, Ganesh, or Ravi, please send out this meeting recordings to me. Yesterday's and today's session is done, and please do that without fail. Appreciate that. So we need to create a data store that communicates to the XML system. Then the third step, create a job, then a data flow, and then drag your source flat file and make it as source. Then create a template table and point it to your target data store. and connect your source to target, and fourth step is to execute the job. So no matter what source or what target, the activity that you do within your data services is pretty much same. You create a job, you create a data flow, you pull in your source table or a file, you pull in your target table or a file, and then you link them and execute them. So that is what we do in data services, right? So uh, people have different questions like, do I teach on BW sources? Do I teach on HANA sources, or do I teach on HANA target? Yeah, pretty much same. I concentrate on talking more about how do you connect to the external systems, and I don't want to repeat each and everything like use these transformations for flat file, use these transformations for database, use these transformations for SAP system. No. So we'll talk about different scenarios. How do we connect to the external systems? How do you connect to SAP BI? How do you connect to ECC? How do you connect to HANA? How do you connect to a flat file? How do you connect to a database? So these are the different scenarios that we will talk about, and then once we get into the tool, we will see how we will work on the tool and the transformations. So now it's your turn to work hard on the system. As you'll once you confirm, you'll be getting some 2 to 3 months server access, so you can practice every day-to-day topic on your system, and come out with new scenarios, think a bit out of the box, and try to create your own scenarios. Just in case if you're stuck somewhere, I'm there to help you out. So the activity that you do within data services is pretty much common. You just need to know how to communicate to the external systems using data services, and then that makes it pretty easy for us to understand this one. Okay, so these are the 4 steps that we need to do. So I'm not adding any more source file because I already have one. I'll go and use that one. The second one is I need to create a data store that communicates to my external system. So let us say this is my external system, and I have a database here called as target. Okay, so I'll be using this database to write as my target database. Right, so how do I communicate BODS with this one? Right, so this is my next question. So I need some set of credentials to create a data store which will communicate to my external system. So if you look at this, now in this case, I need to create a data store which will let data services communicate to the external system, and through the data store we can read or write the data to the external systems. So it can be your source or it can be your target data stores. So what are the different credentials that I need to create a data store? So we will see them once we create the data store, and different ways in which we create the data store. So let me close all the windows that are open here. Go to the start page, and there is one option you can go and create a data store from here, or go to the project new and create a data store from here. And if not, go to your local object library, go to your data store tab, do a context menu, right click, and go for new. And data store always starts with DS and the type of store that you are using here. So when I am saying the type of store, it can be my source, it can be my target, or it can be my lookup data store, or it can be my intermediate staging data store. So based on the activity that I need to perform, I can go and create. So this is my target data store. So the database type is a database, right? So data store type that I'm selecting here is database, but we also can create these many different types of data source. You can create the adapters for WSDLs, web services, then JD Edwards, then Oracle applications, PeopleSoft, SAP application, then BW source and target, then Sybase, Sybase, web services, REST and SOAPs, right? So these are the different types of data stores that you can go and create. So adapters, REST and SOAPs have an issue with the current version, so they are not working. Some patch level upgrade has to be done to make sure that they will work. Sorry for my bad English sometimes. So data stores, the type of the data store that I'm going to create is a database now, because this is my target database to which I'm going to write the data from my flat file. And database type, so these are the different types of databases that are supported directly by data services. So it can be a Authority connector, data federator, DB2, HP, Infomix, memory. So you can also create memory tables. So, this is one of the most asked questions if the other guy knows about it. So he will not skip without asking this. So he will ask you this question saying that I want to create a staging area, but the customer wants me not to have even a single record saved on my hard drive. So how do you achieve this? So as you create a job, you want to create some intermediate staging areas, like you extract and keep a copy, then validate and keep a copy, and then you apply the business rules and keep a copy, and then load it into the target. So but these copies should not be saved on your desktop. So how are you going to do that? So, sorry, when I say desktop, it is your database. It should not be saved on your database. So because customer has some confidential information, you should not save it on your database. So how you're going to handle this? So you can create a memory data store and create memory tables in your data store. So every time the job is executed, these memory tables are dumped with the data as they are used, and once the job is done, the entire memory is erased, right? The entire cache is flushed. So there is technically no single record that you are saving on your database drive. So you can use the memory tables. In that case, you need to have more RAM on your system. So just as a background check, then SQL Server, MySQL, ODBC connections. So if you have any other databases, like you have BAN or you have SAP HANA, so HANA directly it can communicate with data services, but just in case, before they establish a connection between data services and HANA, we connect that through ODBC connection. So you go and create a system DSN, and from there you connect to both the external and internal systems. So we'll look at that once we are doing that with SAP HANA data load. Next one is Oracle. Next one is persistent cache. Just give me a second. Sorry, that's my kid. Alright, so next one is a persistent cache. You can push the data onto your C drive, D drive, the persistence layer of your system, and you can, call it back whenever required. So, I mean, these are the different data stores that you can go and create. Write the data into your persistence layer. Write the data or read the data into your SAP HANA. So SQL Anywhere, Sybase. So these are the different databases. So this can be an interview question, or this can be a certification question. What are the different databases that are supported? So no need to remember each and everything, but yeah, you can be in a position to say yes or no when they say some system. Right, so this is Microsoft SQL Server that we are using as a backend database. Then when you select the database, which version of that you are using on? So is that 2000, 2005, 8, 12? So 2008 R2 is our management studio. So if you look at the navigation, 2008 R2 is my SQL Server. Then the server name, I'm giving it as BU41. I hope you remember from where I get this. So if you go to the SQL Server Management Studio, so in the initial logon screen, I see the server name. This is my server name, and the database name is Target. So let me just copy it from there. Then the username and password that you use to connect to this database. So once you key in all these credentials, there is something like advanced. We'll talk about that a little later. So once you key in all the credentials, you just click on apply and see if everything is syntactically correct. So if I give a wrong password, you click on apply, it will throw you a warning saying that it cannot establish a connection to the backend database that you're trying to reach. But still, if you want to go and save it, you can go and save it. Later you can go and modify that in the future. So I'm just going to click no here, and I'm giving the right password, and just click on apply. The reason why I said that if any of your credentials is wrong, let it be your server name, database name, username and password, it will throw a warning saying that it cannot establish a connection to that. So just click on OK and your data store is created. Now if you expand the data store, this is a data store created to connect to your database. So it has functions, permanent tables and template tables. So we'll talk about this difference between permanent tables and template tables as we look into those scenarios. So now let's go and create a job that will read the data from a flat file and write it into a database. So this is my job underscore ff underscore db underscore ext flat file to database extraction, then df underscore ff underscore db underscore ext flat file to database extraction. Open that one, and now go to your formats tab, expand your flat files. You have your source file, drag and drop it into your data flow. And once you drag and drop it into your data flow, how do I know that I'm dragging into your data flow? This is the tab that is open there. Right, it's my data flow, and you make it as your source. And next one is your target table. So how do you go and create that? You go to your data store, expand your template table. You'll find nothing unless and until there are tables there. You can select the template table and drag and drop it into your data flow. So this is wave 1. Option 1 is select the template table, drag and drop it into your data flow, and give the name as customer underscore staging, and DBO is the owner name for SQL. So you can just click on OK, or this is option 1 in creating a table, or there is a tool on the right hand side called as the tool palette. So you can select template tables on that one and click back on the window, and here there is one more option, because if you have more data stores, you can go to the drop down and select the right data store. As of now it is only one data store, so it is showing in only one here. So alright, so I'm giving the table name and the data. So these are the two ways. It's up to your convenience. Either you want to drag it from here or use the right hand side tool palette. So you can use any of this one. So then connect your source to target, validate the syntax. If everything is fine, go and execute this job. So once the job is done, go to your data flow, and you'll see a magnifying glass here. So once you click on the magnifying glass, so it is showing the data that is present on your target database. Right? So I guess we did not even see the file that is created in the previous example. Let me go and open that for you. So we read the data from alright, this is the file that we created. We read the data from a pipeline delimited file, and we wrote that into a tab delimited file. So if you want to look at the data, you can copy that and open a spreadsheet. And you can paste the data there. Right, so you can see it in the right format. So even if you have a pipeline delimited file, if you want to look at that data, so most of you must be knowing, but just in case if you don't, so this is my pipeline delimited file. So copy this and open an Excel file, and paste it here. The moment you paste it, it will be placed in only one column. So second column is blank, third column is blank. It is pasted in only one column. So go to data, right? Go to text columns in Excel. Then it's a delimited file. Click on next. It is not a TAT delimited file, but it is a pipeline delimited file. And just click on finish and select in the corner, double click, and you should be able to see the data properly, right? So this is how you just manually go and read different delimited files in Excel to have a better understanding on that. So yeah, now the second job that we did is to extract the data from a flat file and write it into a database, and by clicking on the magnifying glass here, right, so we were able to look at the data. So if you look at this magnifying glass, so yeah, we have a question. Yeah, Jafar, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Rakesh. Can we use Excel sheet to use a source file? Like,
Yeah, we can use Excel file as a source. Okay, so this version of data services has a small issue with this. I'll show you. So
okay.
once this flat file.txt is done, I'll show you. So this is installed on a 64-bit machine, and it wants the Microsoft Office 64-bit to be installed on this machine.
Okay.
But the same server is used for different training institutes as well. So they want it to be maintained like this. So that's the reason why we are not.
And the second question, I have a second question. When you were defining the data connection, there was one checkbox, enable CDC.
Yeah.
What was that?
Change data capture. So generally you have this automatic data transfer. This is change data capture. So automatic data transfer is once we create a data store, we can transfer the data, read or write the data from the source and target. The next one is enable CDC. So especially when you go for Oracle system, there are some tables called as change data capture tables, right? Though those tables, they maintain the opcodes along with them. So let us say if a record is inserted, it maintains the I as an insert opcode. And second one, over a month, this record get updated. It will maintain U as an opcode for that, and the same record with the correction will be there. So the change data will be there, and these kind of tables. So when we are enabling, if we enable that one, we can read that kind of tables as well.
Okay. So you mean the initial load, and then if there is any change, then we use this one, right?
Yeah, yeah. So these enable CDC is used to understand or recognize those kind of CDC tables on the Oracle sources.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So the second job, we read the data from a flat file and wrote it into a database table. So let us see a few points on the database side. It's almost beyond time, so I'll not take much time of yours. So if you click on the magnifying glass, the first tab that you see here is the data tab, right? So which contains the data. The second tab that you see here is the profile tab. So this window you get once you click on this magnifying glass. So click on the profile tab, and you can see a column level profiling here. So you just click on records, and it will give you the number of records. And just in case if there is any update in the structure, you can just click on update, and you can see this one. And the third one that you can see is your column profile tab. So you can go and select all the columns, or you can select the number of columns and just click on update. It will give you a stats on your data. So there is no need for you to go and run some quick queries on the database and tell the customer. So if the end user, so it is your convenience again. Just give me a second. So it is your convenience. If you are pretty much good on the database and you are sitting in a customer location, if it's says like, hey, how many null values are there in my region and column? So you can just write a query saying that select star from database table where my region is null. So you can write that query and give him the output, or you can go and do a quick statistics on this one, right? So you can select the column, drop down here, right? And so let us do it on the country. So these many countries are there, and others you have 28.91%. So you can also give them the percentage of level, the data, the number of records that are present for each and every country. So stats, you can see them from here. Data, you can see them from here. Profiling, you can see them from here. You can just check the number of records. So the rest of the options, we'll talk about them a little later as we proceed. And next step that we need to do is like if our customer stage is loaded into the target database or not. Right, go to your database, select your target database and just do a quick refresh on that one. Select and refresh here, or you can select that and do a context menu, right click, and you have a refresh here. You can do it either ways. Now expand this one, expand the tables, and you just search for stage, CUST_stage. So it's sorted in alphabetical order. So this is our table. Select that, right click, and go for select top 1000 rows. Alright, so it will give you the number of records. So I can also say select count of star from this table name, 91 records. So this 91 and this 91 is pretty much the same. So I got my count. So this is a re-verification that you do on the data level once you load it to the target. You can either go to your database and write it. So the stats that we are looking at here, you can also do them from your database. So when I say region and select on update, so I have to select one by one from here. Select star from, or count of star from this table where region is null. $60 records. So let me cross check with my data. I have 60 records as null on the region. So running that on the database level, if you are pretty much comfortable, you can go and do that. But most of us or some of us are not that proficient with the database. They can do that with data services as well. You can give a quick output to the end users. Right. So this is for today. We saw two extractions. One is flat file to flat file, and the second one is flat file to database. And we also saw what is job execution, what is trace, monitor, and error. So the second one is on the database side. So how do we create a data store, and how do we connect this data store to the database tables, and on the database table or on the template table, what are the different options that are available, and how do we do a quick stats on the existing data. So any questions in today's session, please let me know if you have any questions, or you can also ask them in tomorrow's session. Yeah, Lakshmi, go ahead. Lakshmi, I see a hand raised from you.
Yes, sir.
Hmm?
You are saying about source file. You are telling me that we need to practice when I get the server access and all. So I have doubt like source file. Source file, like if when I'm getting the server access, so do I have to create a source file?
Yeah,
How
you
do
can
I don't know.
so you can just go
Yeah,
and create an Excel file, right? You can go to here, type Excel.
okay.
Right, type Excel, and you can just create some file like this: serial number, name, designation, then employee number, then salary. Or you can work on those source files, or if you want these files on my desktop, you can ask Ravi to copy this from my Alright, I can share these folders. I don't think Ravi has an access to the system. So I can share these files with Ravi, and Ravi can share them with you, Lakshmi.
Okay, sir. And one more question is, if I get a I'm getting a server access. You're saying that it might be in real time. It might be a SQL Server or Oracle or any other database like that. So I have a doubt that while practicing, I should install separately in my system Oracle or like that anything.
No,
Uh,
nothing to be
I
installed on
didn't
your
get.
system. You can you can utilize the server access that you get, and once you work on this server, so let it be Oracle or SQL, that is just a backend database. That is for you to understand the concept of the database, right? So once you work on the server, it will be pretty convenient for you. So once you start practicing, Lakshmi, I don't think you will get all these questions, because let it be a SQL or an Oracle system, it is almost the same. The concept is same, and it is your database. So you just practice with whatever you have on the system, and going forward, if you still need one, then we can talk about it.
Okay, sir. Actually, I'm getting a doubt that in the server access what I'm getting, I can practice for both Oracle and SQL Server.
Can you please check with Ravi on that front? I'm not sure on the server which is giving you an access to that you have Oracle on that. I'm not sure. Please check with Ravi on that one, Lakshmi.
Okay, sir. Okay. Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. So any more questions, or shall we call it a day? All right, so if you don't have any questions right now, you can ask them tomorrow before we start the session. So, all right. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining today's session, and appreciate your interest in data services. We'll catch up again on tomorrow's class. All right. Have a good day and good night.